What if the future isn't something that happens to you, but something you create one optimistic step at a time? Our theme today is the future unscripted, and that's a perfect theme because it means that we can climb with curiosity, confidence, and courage. You know, I talk about optimism. And the challenge is that in most organizations, when you get an optimistic leader, they're jumping up and down. I can't dance as well as Diane. They're jumping up and down. And the rest of the team are just rolling their eyes back and saying, not again. They say that when leaders get inspiration, the team gets perspiration. And just about that perspiration, in 2013, after doing a series of triathlons, I made this decision to run a marathon. And every time I ran, I got incredible neck pain, and it was discovered that I had 2 blocked arteries. And 2 stents later, I dodged a bullet. I got a second chance, and it reframed my life. It reframed how I think about things because I realized that optimism is not blind positivity. Optimism is a disciplined approach that tomorrow can be better, and you have agency in making it so. You saw the statistic earlier today, and the latest research says that 79% of our teams are disengaged, they're disconnected, they're drained, they're doing just the minimum. And I get calls every week to say, we need inspiration. And I'll challenge that belief. Because you may be thinking that to get your team engaged, to get them focused, and to get them contributing, you need inspiration. But what you actually need is optimism. Optimism is different. Optimism endures. It's not a spark. It's not a Hollywood moment. It's a disciplined practice that says the future can be better. Inspiration will lift this room. Optimism will lift an entire organization. It fuels resilience. It allows leaders to create teamwork and teams that look to the future. The next wave of leadership will not be defined by technology from someone with a tech background, but it will be defined by mindset. It is the leadership advantage you can't afford to miss. So I've been talking to companies around the world, and I've worked out that there are 4 pillars of optimism. And I'm going to briefly touch on those which make up a lot of my corporate work. So the first of those is crafting a vision. When you got in your car today, the GPS didn't ask you where you were yesterday. The GPS said, where do you want to go today? Optimism starts with that clarity. Leaders need to define that North Star that the team can buy into. But the question is, how do you get the team to buy into it? And one of the best proponents of that was actually the Spice Girls. And one of their most famous songs went something like this. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna. That reframes the conversation. That makes the conversation inclusive. It brings everyone together into that conversation. It changes the top-down approach. The second aspect is that often we walk around, the second of those pillars, we walk around the organization and it's like the blind leading the blind. Everyone is blindfolded. Nobody is actually understanding what everyone else in the organization is doing. And we need to open the eyes. We need to open the eyes to communicating together in such a way, something I called communicating in full color. And that is where you become a chameleon and you communicate with people in the way that they want to be communicated with. Because it's great if you've got this vision as a leader, you now have to communicate it to the team around you. Because optimism spreads when people feel the communication. And the third aspect of this is to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. That is because when disruption hits, optimistic leaders ask, what's already working in our organization? Not what isn't working. They ask what is working. They mine the successes. They mine the bright spots. I mean, how many of you have been in meetings that look like that? Okay? Those are what I call BMW meetings. That's not Be My Wife, right? BMW meetings are bitching, moaning, and whining. That's the standard corporate meeting. And we have to change that narrative. We have to change from being bitching, moaning, and whining to looking at the positives, to looking at how do we mine positivity. We look at possibilities, not problems. I don't believe that we have to solve every problem in the world. I think we have to draw a line in the sand and say, that's happened, it's in the past. Look at that GPS. Let's move forward. Let's move forward with those possibilities and not the problems. And the fourth is to take small steps. Many years ago, I had a pilot's license, and the GPSs we used said, go from here to there. They didn't give you any directions. But today, you need to get step-by-step directions. When I was running and training for a marathon, I went to a running coach because I didn't know how to run. I was a state hockey player, played for Western Transvaal in my youth. And I said, I don't know how to run up hills. And he said, get to the top of that hill. And I said, you mad? And he said, no, don't look at the top of the mountain. We do that in business every day. And we say, oh my God, that's too high. Look down at your feet and run up the hill. And eventually, you'll be at the top of the mountain because you've accumulated those small steps. When I was flying, and this photograph was actually taken flying a 1952 plane over Johannesburg. When I was flying, I learned that small adjustments work. And small adjustments cumulatively give you big changes. And so those are the 4 pillars of optimistic change. Leaders who celebrate progress, not perfection, are the ones who create teams that innovate and thrive. So back to where we started with optimism. Optimism is not a mood. It's a leadership strategy. And so as we face a future unscripted, my challenge to you is the following. Harness optimism. Use it as your guide. Use it as your North Star, because you are the leaders who will seize opportunity and write the next wave where others will miss it. Rael from Perth, Australia.